Week 13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I look to get off the wire this week. The first guy, Tyler Conklin of the New York Jets. It's been an up and down type of waiver wire year for Tyler Conklin, and now on his third quarterback of the season, starting off the year with Joe Flacco, where he was doing great. 3 games in a row to start the year with double-digit fantasy points. Then going to the inconsistent Zach Wilson, and now to Mike White, where this Jet offense has looked good with Mike White, going from last season, the few games he played, and then obviously in the Week 12 matchup versus the Bears. So the last few games here for Conklin: Week 9 versus Buffalo, a catch for 7 yards. Week 11 in New England, 2 catches, 15 yards. And Week 12 versus the Bears, 3 catches, 50 yards. So right now, Week 13, a nice little matchup here for Tyler Conklin at his former team, where he wants to stick it to him a little bit here versus the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. That gives up the 10th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So right here, Mike White, he looks like at least a competent quarterback that could spread the ball out, get it to his receivers, get it to Tyler Conklin. And going into next week here, he's a decent ad available right now in tons of fantasy leagues at 82%. The next guy is Pruitt of the Atlanta Falcons. So right now, obviously, we know Kyle Pitts, he's out for a while with the knee injury here. McCole Pruitt available right now in 100% of fantasy leagues here. He's going to be the number 1 tight end, it looks like, for this Falcon team. And in an expanded role, he actually had a good ball game. 2 catches, 9 yards, a touchdown on 3 targets for this Atlanta Falcon team. So right now, next week, this Falcon team has a pretty good matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers that don't really stop anyone on defense. McCole Pruitt, he's the starting tight end. I know Kyle Pitts, his numbers weren't all that great this season here as a starter with Marcus Mariota. But right now, if you're in a pinch in deeper leagues, I recommend Pruitt more for the deeper leagues, obviously, than the 12-team leagues here for fantasy owners and 10-team leagues. But he's definitely a tight end to keep on the radar. And add this week the next guy, Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. So Hunter Henry, it's been up and down this season here, but Henry coming off one of the better games of the season here for him in Week 12 at the Minnesota Vikings. So the last few games here for Henry on this New England Patriot team: Week 9 versus the Colts, 4 catches, 50 yards. Week 11 versus the Jets, only 1 grab for 20 yards. And Week 12 in Minnesota, 3 catches, 63 yards with a touchdown. And 1 touchdown got called back, where, in my opinion, it looked like he had that ball over the goal line. But anyway, he's a target of Mac Jones. This Patriot team, they actually were aggressive and opened up the offense a little bit on Thanksgiving night at the Minnesota Vikings. And right here, they got to do the same, in my opinion, in Week 13 versus the Buffalo Bills. So right here in a big matchup for this Patriot team, who's on the outside looking in right now of a playoff spot, I think they got to open the passing game up once again, a Thursday night football game here. And Hunter Henry's a big target that definitely can help Mac Jones and possibly fantasy owners, available in 70% of fantasy leagues. The next tight end is Jordan Akins of the Houston Texans. So right here, Akins, I know, is 1 pop game. I know it was obviously in garbage time where this Texan team had to pass a lot. But right now, this Texan team has Kyle Allen in there. Maybe him and Akins are going to build a rapport. So Akins, a good game versus the Dolphins in Week 12. 5 catches, 61 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble loss on 5 targets. So the last few games here for him, he's had 2 good games out of the last 3. Week 10 at the Giants, 3 catches, 72 yards. Week 11 versus Washington, only 2 catches, 8 yards. And Week 12 in Miami, like I mentioned, the good ball game with the 5 for 61, a touchdown, and a fumble loss. So right here, Week 13, not a great matchup versus the Cleveland Browns here. But right now, this team will probably be trailing a lot this season. And in deeper leagues, Jordan Akins is definitely a guy you could go out there and get, available in 100% of fantasy leagues. And the 5th and final tight end I look to get on the wire this week, Foster Moreau of the Las Vegas Raiders. So it seems like 1 good week, 1 bad week here for Moreau. But obviously, he's putting up some decent games. And Darren Waller, he's at least out another 2-3 weeks here for this Raider team. So this Raider team, they've been in a couple shootout games this season and coming off a great one in an overtime victory at the Seattle Seahawks. Moreau, he was a good red zone target and a guy who caught the game-tying touchdown in Week 12. 3 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. So the last few weeks here for him, Week 10 as well, 3 catches, 43 yards, a touchdown. And then Week 11 at Denver, not a great game, a catch for 33 yards. So right now it seems like his ceiling's 12, 13 fantasy points here is Moreau in PPR leagues, which is fine. In Week 13, he's got a good matchup versus division foe, the Los Angeles Chargers, that give up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So right now, available in 61% of fantasy leagues here is Moreau, and that's a few tight ends I look to add on the waiver wire for Week 13 of the fantasy football season.